Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chem 1115, Chemistry and Society. Today we are discussing Chapter 12. So just a reminder to please read the textbook in addition to the notes packet and the presentation that we're going to do here. All right, so Chapter 12 is about medicinal chemistry. How does a healthy body work? What are the different types of medications? All that good stuff. So here's what you'll be doing as your reflection for Chapter 12, which I will just skip over. And let's talk about a couple of definitions. A pharmaceutical is a substance that is therapeutic. That means it has an intention for therapy to prevent, moderate, or cure an illness, whereas medicinal chemistry is the science of discovery or design of new therapies, chemicals, that are used for therapy. We call them therapeutic chemicals, and their development into medicine. Now, this is the extreme basic definition of these two terms. Just a reminder that in chemistry and society, this is a survey course, so we are only covering the high points. You'll take a whole entire courses on these topics right here if you pursue chemistry at a deeper level as part of your career. But right now in Chem 1115, we are literally just talking about the high points. So just keep that in mind, okay? There is a whole lot more to this than just some basic definitions that we're going to discuss today. So one of the things that I really want you to understand is that if you just grab random chemicals and ingest it, that probably would kill you, right? The good news is that, excuse me, the good news is that medicines are tailored. That means that they are extremely specific and they only go to very specific destinations in the body. And that's really, really good because, again, you don't want something that affects every single cell in your body. That could be catastrophic in some areas. So we use organic chemistry and specifically the functional groups, and we use binding theories and a whole host of other applications to make medicines very specific. So I want you to understand that medicines are very, very, very specific, and chemistry is what is allowing that to happen. If you go on to take biochemistry or pharmacological chemistry or medicinal chemistry or pharmacology or any of those other courses, you will spend the entire semester learning about how these things work. But medicines are very, very, very specific, and that's good. So organic chemistry is a whole course that you'll take if you pursue it further in chemistry. It's the study of carbon compounds. There are millions of organic compounds, and carbon can bond in a lot of unique ways. So carbon needs 4 bonds to be stable, and those can all be single bonds. Those can be a combination of single and double, single and triple. Carbon can bond to other atoms. Carbon can form rings. Carbon can do a whole lot of really interesting things. And so just so you know, organic chemistry is the study of carbon compounds, and that's something that you can take entire courses on as well. And I encourage you to do so, by the way. So within organic chemistry, you have what are called functional groups, and these are arrangements of atoms. So they're very specific arrangements of atoms where organic reactions occur. Now in Chem 1115, Chemistry and Society, you are not responsible for memorizing functional groups because this is a survey course, but in future chemistry classes, you will be memorizing those functional groups. So just be prepared. If you go on to pursue chemistry as part of your major or your career, you will be memorizing the major functional groups and how those functional groups carry out organic reactions. But here, I just want you to know the definition of a functional group, which is a very specific arrangement of atoms where an organic reaction takes place. Okay, so once the target molecule gets to its destination, it has to bind with that destination target. And so that destination could be a cell, and the molecule would have to enter the cell, or that target destination could be a protein, and then the molecule would have to interact with that protein in some way. And so I am going to show you an extremely simplified model called binding model. And you've probably seen this in some of your biology classes as well. If you took biology 1 recently, you probably saw this there. So think of it, here's our drug molecule, very simple cartoon representation. And this can either be the cell or it could be a protein within the cell. So the first model is called lock and key. This is the key, this is the lock. It literally just fits in there. Another one is called induced fit. So the lock changes shape a little bit once the key comes into interacting with it, and then the key can go into the lock. And then another model is called conformational selection, where it doesn't fit in this isomer, but it does fit in this isomer. And so again, these are extremely simplified models, but the thing that I want you to understand about binding theory is that your molecule has to engage with the target for the molecule to have the desired effect, right? Because if the molecule never engages with whatever protein or cell that you're targeting, then obviously it can't have the effect that you're looking for. And again, this is a very, 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 very basic definition here. So here's another example using a hormone. Here's the target cell. So these are proteins that are on the surface of the cell, and these are our molecules of interest. And again, these are just cartoon representations. But the receptor goes into the lock here, so to say, and it's very specific to only that one type. And then here's another representation using steroids on protein receptors. Instead of using a cartoon form, it's showing you the actual molecule. All right, so the functional groups and their placement in 3D space determine the activity of that molecule within a living thing. And that is so important for you to understand. I'm going to actually highlight that. Okay, because the shape of a molecule is so important. The shape of a molecule determines what it does and how it interacts in the living system. And so here's a video that you can check out showing a demonstration of that very principle. Okay, again, we're gonna grossly classify here. That means we're going to do some major classification that in future courses you would definitely parse out. So we can broadly classify drugs as drugs that cause a physiological response. So for instance, you could take aspirin for a headache, anti-cancer drugs to target cancer cells, morphine to target pain, right? So they have a very targeted response. Or you could classify them as agents that kill invaders, right? So antibiotics, antifungals, all that good stuff. So that is an extremely broad classification. But again, it all goes back to this. The shape of the molecule determines what it is. Its structure determines its function. You've probably heard that in your biology classes as well. When you're talking about the liver versus the brain, right? The structure determines its function. And the same thing is true of chemistry. So sometimes drugs are discovered by mistake. And here's an example of how penicillin was discovered. But just so you know, the average time to develop a drug is about 10 years and several $1 million. Okay, so it's not something that usually happens by mistake, but this is an example that your book uses of a drug that was discovered by mistake. And so one of the ways that new drugs are developed is called combinatorial chemistry. And so what happens is large numbers of small molecules are sequenced into these libraries that can then be used for future testing. And so, for instance, if you have a large library, that's kind of like a starting point, and you can use that for playing around with future chemicals. And we're really not going to get into drug development process because, again, you can take whole courses on this. You can go get a PhD in this. So we are really just scratching the surface here. And that's where we're going to stop for chapter 12. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And I hope you have a good day. Bye.